In a remote Himalayan valley nestled amidst snow-capped peaks and serene landscapes, there existed an ancient temple. This temple was home to a community of monks who had dedicated their lives to seeking enlightenment and spreading its teachings. Among them lived a monk named Elias, a man whose quiet strength and unwavering discipline had earned him the respect of his fellow monks. Unlike the others, Elias often felt a subtle yet persistent stirring within him, a sensation that hinted at a path he was meant to walk, a path that lay hidden from the eyes of others. For years, Elias found solace in the tranquility of his daily routine, tending to the temple's gardens, chanting ancient sutras and meditating beneath the shade of ancient trees. Yet the quiet hum in his heart never faded. It was like a distant melody beckoning him to a distant shore. One day, as Elias was making his rounds, he noticed something peculiar. The temple's grand bell, a massive bronze creation that had stood in the temple's courtyard for centuries, seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow. According to ancient texts, this bell was not just a mere symbol of their faith. It was an embodiment of their spiritual essence. It was a silent witness to their prayers and rituals. Legend held that the bell was to be rung only during times of great celebration or dire emergencies, and only those deemed worthy by the spiritual leader, the master, were permitted to touch it. As the days turned into weeks, Elias couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being called to do something extraordinary. The bell's silent call grew louder in his ears. The other monks, however, oblivious to this internal struggle, just walked past it, their daily lives unaffected by its silent allure. One night, as Elias sat in meditation, he suddenly found himself enveloped in a vivid vision. He saw children crying, their faces streaked with dirt and fear. He saw their homes reduced to ashes and their pleas for help echoing in the wind. The scene was so real that he could feel their pain, as if it were his own. And in the distance, above the din, he heard the unmistakable toll of the temple bell. Startled, he awoke from his vision drenched in sweat. The dream felt uncomfortably real, like a message from the depths of his soul. The next morning, Elias approached the master, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. "Master," he began hesitantly, "I had a vision last night. I feel compelled to ring the bell. Something deep inside me tells me there's a reason." The master, known for his wisdom and insight, looked at Elias not just as a disciple, but as a vessel of the divine. He understood that the path of enlightenment was not always linear. It was paved with moments of uncertainty and courage. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice echoing the gravity of the decision. "Elias, if you are wrong, you will face the consequences. For breaking the ancient code, the punishment is severe. However, if your heart is pure and your intentions true, I will support you." With these words, the master gave Elias his permission. Standing before the massive bell, Elias hesitated. His hands trembled, not just because of the physical effort required, but because of the weight of tradition and discipline he was about to either uphold or break. Around him, all the monks watched intently, their faces a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Taking a deep breath, Elias closed his eyes. He let go of his doubts and fears and listened intently to the quiet voice within. When he finally opened his eyes, his gaze was resolute. Slowly, he lifted the massive clapper and let it fall. The sound that resonated was not just a clang of metal, but an affirmation of spirit. Boom! The deep reverberations echoed across the valley, passing through the mountains and over the distant hills. It was a sound that carried not just noise, but a message of hope and aid. Hours later, a weary traveler stumbled upon the monastery. His face was etched with exhaustion and despair. His village, nestled far down the hills, had been ravaged by a sudden fire. Homes had turned to ashes, and the villagers were in desperate need of assistance. As he made his way to the temple, he heard the sound that had cut through the chaos of the fire, the sound of the bell. Hope surged within him. He followed the sound, believing it to be a beacon guiding him to safety and aid. Upon reaching the monastery, the monks, led by Elias, sprang into action. They gathered food, supplies, and any form of aid they could offer. Accompanied by the traveler, they rushed to the afflicted village, their steps quickened by the urgency of the situation. Later, when the immediate crisis was averted and the villagers were safe, the master approached Elias, His eyes twinkled with pride and understanding. "True wisdom," he said softly, "is not always learned. Sometimes it is remembered from within." From that day forward, Elias was not just known as the disciplined and devout monk. He was the monk who listened, who dared to trust the universe and its whispers, proving that sometimes the greatest wisdom comes not from books or teachings, but from the echoes of the soul. Sometimes, your inner voice knows the truth long before the world does. Trust it. The universe speaks, not in noise, but in silence.